Yeah, we're recording. Well, hi neighbors, it's John, your whiskey neighbor, and today I've got a pretty special opportunity for you guys to get a glimpse into a craft distillery here in the Okanagan Valley. I'm out here visiting my cousin Brad. You've heard me talk about Brad before. And today I have John, sorry I didn't get your last name, sir. McNamara from the Okanagan Distillery. Yeah,
Okanagan Spirits Craft Distillery. Western Canada's first. Not the only, because there's many craft distilleries in Western Canada now, including just 32 in British Columbia.
Awesome. So I've been on your short tour here, heard a little bit about your stills and some of the products. But what would you say, what got the group or yourself interested in craft distilling in the Okanagan?
I'm going to say that the abundance of wonderful fresh fruits in the Okanagan got the family, the Tony Dykes family and Frank Dieter, the original distiller, wanting to make alcohol from fresh fruits from the Okanagan. It started with just simply fermenting the fruits, making a brandy from it, and then after a few years of making brandies, branching out into other products like a vodka, a gin, absinthe, and then more recently our newest products were the whiskeys.
Okay. Yeah, and the people that kind of tune into this small channel, really, I tend to review whiskey, like Scotch or bourbon or some Canadian whiskey. And I've heard, I have not tasted yet or had a chance to purchase your award-winning single malt whiskey.
That's
right? You want to talk to me a bit about your single malt?
That Laird of Fintry single malt whiskey. It's like a Scotch, though we can't call it Scotch, as you probably know, not being in Scotland. But Laird is Scottish for Lord, so it's almost like saying it's Scotch.
Okay, yeah.
So it starts out as barley, which is grown on fields we manage in Coldstream Valley, little town of Lavington. Yeah. We then get it malted in Armstrong, just to the north of Vernon, by Gambernus. It is unpeated whiskey, so there's no peated fire in our kilning process.
Yeah, for sure.
And so once we have our barley malted, we get it delivered here to the back of our warehouse where it gets milled right here. Oh. So we do the milling here, and then finally we're going to take that milled malted barley, put it in our mash tun, lauter tun, add some water, some heat, stirring mechanism, bunch of hours, and then eventually we're going to have our whiskey wash, which is just a sugary liquid. Mm-hmm. Put that into a fermentation tank with a bit of yeast. 3 or 4 days later, we'll have something like a beer, 6 or 7% alcohol, which we then put into a still. Mm-hmm. And the still we use is just to my right over there, to your left, everybody. Yep. And that is our whiskey still, who's just in between batches. It is distilled twice. During that first distillation, we're going to keep all the alcohol, and it's going to be somewhere around 40%. And during the second distillation, we're going to take the percentage up to somewhere in the high 80s. And that high 80% alcohol is our final distillation. So at which point we're going to do some barrel aging. And barrel aging means putting it into a white American oak barrel that is charred on the inside, charred to number 4, which is as dark as you can char it without burning through the barrel. Yep. It's going to stay in that barrel for 4.5 years, and those barrels start as Jack Daniel's barrels, which were used once for Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah, during the tour you were talking about the barrel aging, and I wasn't sure where you were going, whether you put it in the ex-Tennessee whiskey barrels or whether it was new or virgin American oak, but these are ex-Tennessee whiskey.
They've been used once by Jack Daniel's and maybe even once by us already for our whiskey.
Oh, okay.
We'll use those barrels 4 or 5 times, but since we've only been making whiskeys for 8 or 9 years, we have a lot of future with those barrels before they're finished.
Excellent.
But we don't barrel age it at 85 or 86% alcohol. We barrel age it at a lower level.
I was going to ask if you bring it down to somewhere in the 60s maybe or
That's
something.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. It seems to be fairly common. I mean,
that seems to be an industry standard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some comment on how that's the right amount of alcohol to maybe bring more flavors out of the wood than if you go too high.
And if you blend it down too low, you're not going to get enough interaction with the wood.
Yeah.
Certainly, you're going to have less angel share lost, but I think you're not going to have as good a quality whiskey in the end.
Okay, and then also I didn't know until the tour that you age it for some time in the ex-bourbon, but then you do a finishing casking.
That's
is that right?
So 4.5 years in those Jack Daniel's barrels. And then we transfer our single malt whiskey into a different type of barrel. In this case, it's a French oak barrel that was used for barrel aging a fortified wine. And that fortified wine is made by Quails Gate Winery in West Kelowna. So we provide the spirits.
So another local partnership that you've worked out.
Yes, yeah. So those we provide the spirits, the grape spirits for fortifying that wine. They barrel age the fortified wine, and once they've finished barrel aging, we'll take shipment of those barrels and then spill that fine whiskey from Jack Daniel's barrels into the Quails Gate barrels, where it spends the last 6 months picking up a bit of the color, both from the wine and flavors from the wood itself.
Okay.
Makes for a fantastic finishing whiskey.
Yeah, no, it sounds delicious. I haven't tried it yet, but I have been spoiled, I think you called it, with a little bit of a sample that we're going to try in a moment. But let's say, as a viewer here, you might want to get some of that or have the opportunity to purchase some of your single malt. How does someone do that? Can we register do we have to come down here? Can we register on the website? How do we get in on that?
I would go to OkanagansPirits.com.
Yeah.
Access at the bottom of the page, you'll see an opportunity to enter the Whiskey Insider newsletter.
Okay.
So the Whiskey Club. So once you join that, then you'll be informed of all the whiskey releases, including the single malt.
Right.
Sadly, we only have 1,500 bottles being released this year, and last year there was an interest from 10,000 to 11,000 people, same as the year prior. So there'll be a lottery for the right to buy a bottle. And so if you're interested, OkanaganSpirits.com is where to go.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, thanks, John, for taking a moment to talk to us a bit about your work here and also your fine spirit. I won't taste it on camera right now. I guess we'll just go up to your tasting bar, which you guys can come down here and try a little bit. But
cheers.
Okay, cheers. Thanks.